Hi, everyone. Karen Connolly of Balanced Explorations. And today I wanted to talk to you about a little bit more about sacred travel. Because this is personally, I love this the most. You know what I mean? Because um, I don't know if you can hear through this actually. I think so. Um, because I didn't have it set up when I arranged this, but trying out the different setup. I have a microphone I got for Christmas here, and so spirituality. Some places are obviously like a sacred site, or there's a place where there's a lot of energy, and people go there for a specific, reason. Like if they belong to a specific religion, they might take a pilgrimage to a place of worship, or, that might be the sole focus. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about here, although, whatever you're into is, what's sacred and spiritual to you. Um, but in one example that a lot of people go to because they're interested in spirituality and the vortexes is Sedona, Arizona. I had the opportunity to go back in, I believe I came to Vermont in 2013, but it was August. I believe it was back in March of 2013. And I, I had an amazing experience of going off into the canyons and it's like the red rocks, and there's Jupiter's junipers, sorry, that are, twisted, and it's said it's by the energy of the place. So like different places have different energy, and it's kind of like an interesting experience as far as how it feels to you as opposed to someone else. See, someone else might not have any interest in going to those places, and it would be, boring to them or not interesting. They don't like a lot of nature, whatever. But a lot of places, if you are just quiet, you can feel, the energy inside you, and it feels like a place you would want to, spend more time in, or maybe you just feel at home there. Or maybe you go there, once in a life or once a year to recharge your energy. Like you feel like you can finally relax there, whereas you might not be able to relax everywhere you go. A lot of places, they're full of frenetic energy, so a lot of people would think of a sacred space as a more either a place where spiritual activities took place in the past, or a place that is meaningful. So there's the, church, mosque, synagogue, places where spiritual leaders once went or lived, or, if they had a special path, people might want to follow that. Or a lot of people now are just finding their own path. So while Sedona is nice, I haven't really had the desire to go back there. I do have a little bit of, ash and clay in a jar that my guide when I was there did suggest having in smoothies, and I did a few times back then. I haven't used it since. It's been in like a tightly sealed jar. So perhaps, but it's like gritty and gets in your teeth. But that is literally the ground from that place. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes, if a place feels really special, you might, find a little rock on the ground, that just when you hold it, you feel like you're back there, or you can use it to meditate and close your eyes, and you feel like you're back there. little seashells. Like, what is, sacred to you? Like, if the earth is sacred, and like this was actually at the top of a plateau, the top of a cliff in Santorini. So the tour guide that we met told me about these. Like, he was showing us that there were tiny little like different kinds of rock, like lava rock, and he like picked up these little pieces and gave it to this one woman, and I'm like, ooh, I want some too. So he picked that out for me. So you can have like the energy so that you can never forget that you were there, and you can go back there in your meditations. Maybe just have them on your desk while you think about what you want to do next. Um, there's so many different, paths to take. And I don't know about you, but I find it a very sacred experience to go to a spa. And one of the really cool experiences, it wasn't a spa, but when I was in Japan, I actually took, what was it, a subway and 2 trains from my hotel in Kyoto to get over to, Kurama, which is where the mountain where Reiki was discovered. So I'm like a Reiki master teacher and have been since 2009, so that felt like a really sacred and spiritual experience to me when I did a little research before I left and realized that it would be possible, for me to actually get there from where I was staying. Like, it wouldn't be an impossible trip. I It didn't take like all day to get there or anything either. So I took, a subway that was right around the corner from the hotel, and then a regular train, and then one of these very the only thing I could compare it to, it's kind of like a cross between a light rail and when I was in, Killington and went up in their gondola, it's like kind of a cross between those 2 things, and as I was going into the more rural kind of area, it started to actually feel more like Vermont there. There was some snow, there were mountains, there was like a little village in between the snow and mountains, and it was awesome. I climbed up the mountain to the base. There's a Buddhist temple there, and it was like the base of the temple. I mean, the top of the mountain, but the path that led deeper into the mountain, which is where I think Master Usui actually discovered Reiki, was was closed off, and snow was on the path, so it was like not open publicly, but it felt so peaceful and quiet, and like the energy just feels different on the summit of that mountain. I could tell it was a sacred spot, not just for myself, but that other people might feel it. But to me, it was sacred because it was related to Reiki. And also because I've been practicing Buddhism, although not that type of Buddhism. So there's different groups, but I'm like, Buddha is Buddha, and Buddha's energy is Buddha's energy. And maybe that's what Master Usui found up there, and channeled into a Reiki practice that could be, taught to others and attune others to it. So that was just a very like special experience, and I found like a few tiny little rocks that I still have a couple of little ones, and I gave a couple to friends, as a special memento. So And then after I left there, when I came down the mountain, I actually went over to an onsen. That's where I was getting when I was talking more about a spa experience. I didn't stay there overnight because I had a hotel back in Kyoto for a couple more nights. So I did actually do their package of like a meal, and then you put the robes on, and then they had an indoor and outdoor hot springs. So I knew I had to go use the outdoor hot springs. Like, what is better than that when it's like 35 degrees outside and there's snow on the ground than to see like the steam rising? Yes, there's like a cultural difference. Like in the US, like people just don't like hang out naked at all, like anywhere. Um, but I it's like you don't put on clothes there, you rinse off, you get in, you rinse off, you get into the next one. I went to the outdoor one. It was segregated between women and men. And inside, they had three pools, like three different temperatures. There was like, I guess, a really hot one, a medium one, and then I think it went from the hot one into the cold plunge pool right next to it. I was chatting with a few women. There were like English speakers there, but they weren't Americans. I'm not sure um, where they were, from. I know it's been like years now. That was 2017 in January when I went. Um, but that experience was awesome. I wouldn't trade that for anything, and I consider going there and doing all that. Even the whole trip to Japan was kind of a sacred experience for me, and a spiritual journey, just because there's a lot of Buddhist temples in Japan. Like, there was a map with all of them marked, and there's literally, you could literally walk from one to the next to the next to the next. Like, you could probably spend a week there just wandering around and never repeat the same, temple twice, and still not see everything, all the museums and everything. Um, and might as well go back a little bit to this last trip in Greece, where before I left, I looked into things like Delphi, because but they call it Delphi, but I'm so used to saying Delphi because that's how we said it in New Jersey where I was growing up. Um, but I looked it up because there were oracles there. They channeled guidance for people who would go to them, and it turns out they were more wealthy patrons that would make the statues in the temples there, and they would go and they would have questions and they would receive answers directly from the oracle. And that is, especially sacred and interesting to me because I've been doing, not specifically channeling, but intuitive readings and that type of thing. Talking to angels, all that, since 2009 as well. So I'm like, let me see. This seems like it would be a good like pilgrimage site for people who do that kind of work or interested in that kind of thing. And I had a private driver pick me up at the cruise port and take me over there. It was a 2.5 hour ride from Athens to get to Delphi, and it was a lot of hiking. I saw the people that actually went on tours of the site. They didn't go very high. Like, they would stop in front of like this one little area and just like talk for 10 minutes and then move on. But they never went up. I was there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna just go as far up as I can go. I was wearing flip-flops, just because I've worn sneakers in the past, like when I went to to Hawaii and having those sneakers on, I actually got blisters on my feet, whereas I don't tend to when I have the flip-flops on. And when I say flip-flops, I mean like the Clarks ones with the really thick like shoe bottoms on them. They last and you can, step on rocks and all that kind of thing and not have it break. So so I just kept going. I went all the way up to the top and I saw the whole valley spread out below, the beautiful valley. And I could see, where the museum right next door was. And I knew there was this other area. It was over, to the left, actually beyond the mountain, the twist in the road where I could see. But I knew I wanted to head over there too because there was some talk in books and online research that possibly that was actually the site of where like the oracle had been, or they had moved the site like 300 meters or something. So it was like, well, I might as well go over there too since I'm here. And because I had a private driver, I didn't have to go back. I didn't have to, stop after, a half hour there and have to rush back to the bus or spend an hour in the museum when I only wanted to spend like 30 minutes. I think I only spent actually 30 minutes in the museum. I saw stuff. I grabbed a few of the booklets. They have the some books about it and some photos of the exhibits, and the same for the archaeological site. I just bought those 2 books. I figured I could read them when I get home, and I've read most of the one about the site, um, the archaeology, part. And so those are, 3 of the most, personally meaningful trips to me. And I would love to help you create a vacation, a trip, a retreat, whatever you want to call it, that is, special and, sacred to you. What is meaningful to you? What will give you the most joy and excitement to go see? It's not about what I wanna see, it's just me telling you that I understand what you might like an idea of what this is, and then you can tell me if this is something that you, have been thinking about yourself and you need assistance with the planning, and, I can do all that for you. So just get in touch. I put up my website. You can email me or message me through the information on there, and I will be talking to you again soon.